Singapore Solomon Thomas asserts that the committee will take seriously the conclusions of the audit Sterling report on COVID-19. And the principal legal consultant, Office of the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, says 85 appeals have been tendered against the orders in the white paper. And with the option of imposing fines, the Rights to Access Information Commission demands the disclosure of information by public authorities and service providers in the country. All the stories are more lined up. But first, let's take our coronavirus preventive message. Well, make sure you continue to adhere to the coronavirus preventive messages. The chairman, Public Accounts Committee, Honorable Singapore Solomon Thomas, says that the committee will take seriously conclusions of the audit Sterling report on COVID-19. He made this statement during the public hearings on the audit of funds managed by NACOVAC and their ministries and other ministries, departments and agencies from March to June 2020. Here is an excerpt of his speech.
You have been invited as a result of the NACOVAC report that has already been submitted to Parliament. That report has been tabled in Parliament, and the conclusions of that report are nothing to write home about. There are very serious issues in the report, and as a committee, we do not intend to treat the conclusions lightly. As a Parliament, of course, since the report was tabled, so many things have happened. We have witnessed several press conferences by the Anti-Corruption Commission and, of course, the Auditor General's Office relating particularly to the NACOVAC report and, of course, the 2019 report. We are concerned as a committee, and we have decided that we will treat issues or matters relating to the conclusions of those reports very, very seriously this year. Of course, for those who appeared before me last year, I sounded several notes of caution relating to reports that will come before this committee after the 2018 Auditor General's report. And I told auditees last year that this committee will treat conclusions from any report brought to Parliament by the Auditor General very, very seriously. And that is the kind of seriousness we intend to attach to the NACOVAC report, and of course subsequently the 2019 report. But in the circumstances, I wish to apologize profusely for not proceeding today. Like I said, we are going to treat the NACOVAC report very, very seriously. And as a result of that, and because of the seriousness we intend to attach to that report, we insisted as a committee to ensure that the Auditor General herself sits with this committee. We have insisted as a committee that she sits with this committee to address those issues. We don't want our deputies to sit with us. We don't want assistant auditors general to sit with us. We want the Auditor General herself to be here. Of course, I know as MDAs, you have explanations to some of the conclusions. So we want these explanations to come out or to be presented in the very presence of the Auditor General. That is all the more reason why I wish to apologize today that we cannot proceed. As it is, I've invited her to face the committee, and it is hoped that she will face the committee so that we trash some of these issues before you appear before us. So in the circumstances, I wish to apologize and to crave your indulgence. Of course, we know you have waited for so long. We'll be having our meeting as a committee to agree on some of these issues. So I apologize profusely, we cannot proceed today. But we inform you in the not too distant future to appear before us so that we have these matters addressed accordingly.
Well, that was Honorable Sengepe Thomas talking down the conclusions of the audit SLN report on COVID-19. The Right to Access Information Commission has disclosed to journalists that most ministries, departments, agencies, and non-state actors are not in the practice of proactively disclosure of vital information in their website. Such behavior goes contrary to the Right to Access Information Commission Act of 2013, which demands the disclosure of information held by public authorities and service providers in the country. Chidetha Ntona reports.
The Ministry of Health and Sanitation, Mines and Mineral Resources, and Gender and Children Affairs are the ministries that are not proactively disclosing vital information in their websites for public consumption, according to the survey done by the Consultant for Rights to Access Information Commission, Sir Kendema.
That's all part of accountability mechanism. With respect to that, I think only a few MDAs that are complying to that as such. But you see that there's a very huge gap. And for some MDAs, they do not have websites, which is so frustrating. And these are some big MDAs. So if let's say an MDA, then you do not have a website, how will people access the data that you have or the information that you have? So that is why we are very strict in letting them know that it's not about you having the information in your files. It's not about you having the information in your hard drive. It's about you update it. The website has to be living. The hyper has to be living. And the best way the website can live is when you update the website for people to consume what is there.
For the Chairman, Rights to Access Information Commission, Dr. Shiaga Saw, all ministries, departments, agencies, and non-state actors must adhere to the Commission Act of 2013, which states that all information should be proactively disclosed for public use. He, however, encouraged representatives of ministries, departments, agencies, and non-state actors to work in line with the Act of 2013, stressing that fines will be levied against any defaulters who fail to adhere to the Act.
And we are encouraging others, to replicate the best example of those MDAs that have done very well. It's not just MDAs, also NSAs, non-state actors. You know, some of them have also, they put pressure on MDAs to do the right thing, but some of them have also not been proactively disclosing information. So we are going to encourage them to also come forward, you know, and proactively disclose information.
If ministries, departments, and agencies and non-state actors want to attract international partners, businesses, and donors, they must ensure that they publish all their information on the internet. For SLBC News, Jonathan Turner reporting.
The Anti-Corruption Commission has revealed that the 50 kVA generator donated by China is the same as the one currently installed in Zimi, and while the Commission admitted that there were discrepancies in the specification of the laptops procured by NACOVAC, its findings also revealed that there were no missing laptops as opposed to investigations published in the 2019 Auditor General's report. Suri Ibrahim Kamara reports.
To prioritize acting on the COVID report 2020, while the team, the ACC team and our team, comprising intelligence and lawyers and investigators, we are coping through the 2019 audit to bring out issues that will be important for the ACC to deal with.
One institution that featured prominently in the reports is the National COVID-19 Response Emergency Center, or NACOVAC, which, through the Ministry of Health and Sanitation, was alleged to have misplaced a 50 kVA generator donated by the Chinese embassy. The Auditor General also reported NACOVAC's failure to follow due process in the procurement of 47 touchscreen laptop computers. However, the Anti-Corruption Commission has revealed the possibility of discrepancy in paperwork during the handing over of the generator to the Minister of Health and Sanitation.
After looking into the totality of these facts by our investigators, expert investigators, including speaking to the Chinese, we are very clear in our minds, very clear, 100% clear in our minds. Because even the pictures, you will see, we have pictures where the generator was given to Dr. Uli by the Chinese. We have those photographs. If you compare those photographs with what is on site, you will be clear in your mind that the same generator that was given by the Chinese is the same generator. It's the same generator that is at Zimi.
Moreover, the commissioner said the laptops procured by NACOVAC were not missing, but there were discrepancies on the specifications.
The supplier confirmed that he supplied this laptop because at the time when I found the procurement with him, he did not have the full complement of the laptop that I found needed for NACOVAC. And that was the time of the lockdown. Because the lockdown was there and people wanted to move on with work anyway, COVID was already threatening Sierra Leone. The people at NACOVAC told him, okay, don't worry, just supply us the laptops you have. So he went and rounded some high-end laptops he has and some lower-end laptops he has and supplied them to NACOVAC. It was irresponsible of NACOVAC. It was irresponsible of the staff concerned, and it was a criminal.
The latest of the SEC findings are only ascribed to issues of the generator, laptops, and the SUVs. But they were part of a plethora of issues raised in the 2019 Auditor General's reports. Some of the issues, according to the SEC Commissioner, were still under investigation.
People are going to pay. People are going to go to prison. People are going to be arrested in the most brutal form. People are going to be prosecuted. And of course, we are going to hit people where we know also their pockets.
Key among the issues he highlighted are 149 billion, which remain unaccounted for. The Office of the Chief Minister, Ministry of Basic Education, Anesbai Koroma University and Jala University, Sierra Leone Maritime Administration, and the Parliamentary Service Commission are also featured prominently in the reports. The Auditor General last week also held a press conference saying it stood by its findings. For SLBC News, Suribam Kamara.
Well, for more clarifications, I have with me in the studios Maurice Kante, the Assistant Public Relations Officer of the Anti-Corruption Commission. Good afternoon and welcome to News Hour.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Now, first of all, clarify to us what is the relationship between the ACC and the Auditor General? I mean, the collaboration.
Yes. So, for us at the ACC, we view the Audit Service Sierra Leone as partners. Partners in the integrity space. We appreciate the work that the audit service is doing in terms of blowing whistle on corrupt practices. As the commissioner stated yesterday in the press conference, there was not going to be any discussion. We are not even going to have this discussion around audit reports if the auditors had not done a very good job of unraveling corrupt practices. So we have been working with them. In fact, we are partners. The two institutions are partners. But that notwithstanding, we have various ways that we carry out our work. And so, as the commissioner stated, the findings from this with regards to the laptops and the generator are all the same. All of their findings are the same with ACC's findings. But the conclusions are different. Like, for example, the generator in question, they concluded that because they went to this Zimi hospital and they did not see a 50 kVA generator, they concluded that that generator was missing. For us as an investigative institution, we go deeper beyond just going to determine whether a generator was there or not there. And as the commissioner stated, it will be irresponsible on our part to come to the conclusion that because a 50 kVA generator was not at site when we went there, so that means the generator is missing.
Now, is this the first time that the conclusions from the ACC and the Auditor General have been different?
Well, the audit service, they have been doing a very good job. You know, we have been issuing out press statements over 5 episodes now. We have been updating the public on our interventions with regards to the 2018 report, which means we have been working. But even from that report, 2018, there are several instances wherein audit service initially got it wrong. But then ACC came in and then we were able to get it right. Let me give you an example. In the last audit report, it claimed that the University of Sierra Leone misappropriated over 20 billion, something around that. We started investigations immediately when the report came out. And our investigations, after the conclusion of our investigations, we were able to determine that the 20 billion was not misappropriated as claimed by audit service. But that is no fault of audit, and we have made this very clear on several occasions. Let me give you this instance. We have a standard mandate in terms of investigation. When we go to these institutions, well, because of our mandate, some of them or most of them always cooperate with us, because if we ask for a document, for example, and then you don't make it available, we are mandated by law to take certain measures. So you see, they cooperate with us. So it is possible that when these auditors go, because some of these institutions actually engage in corrupt practices, in order to cover their track, they might refuse to make these documents available to audit. And so, considering some of the challenges that audit service have vis-a-vis lack of personnel, so you notice that they don't normally do follow-up visits to most of these MDs. So they will just come to a conclusion that because, for example, the document was not provided, certain amount of money is missing.
So basically you're saying...
But when we go now, they make these documents available to us. And so that is where the conclusions differ, because we go deeper and we go to unravel most of the issues that they can't. So the conclusions sometimes differ. Okay. So that is the same situation
now,
here.
You're saying that the Audit Service Commission is not embarking on a thorough investigation to get a better or the exact conclusion?
What I'm trying to say is the mode of operation is different. Ours is an investigative institution, and so we have to go deeper to unravel the evidence, whereas theirs is an audit. So sometimes it is not as thorough as the ACC's own investigative processes.
Now, how will this affect your future investigation into any other story?
I don't understand what you mean.
How
can this affect us?
Yeah, because some will see it as a hindrance into your work for the Audit Service Commission to bring another story different from yours.
Yeah, well, it is not a hindrance. We have stated our facts that we have been able to deduce from our investigation. Audit Service is an institution on its own. We are not contesting, we are not saying they are wrong. What we are saying is that our findings differ from their conclusions with regards to missing generator. We are saying that because a 50 kVA generator was not found on site, that does not necessarily mean a generator was missing. That is the point of contact. Let me just give you a scenario. I created a similar scenario today when I was on one television channel. Someone sent a pen for you, a blue pen, and then the person comes to deliver, and then in the process the person calls you and say, I have sent a red pen for you, and then the person actually come and gives you the blue pen, and then I come in now and then I see a red pen. Will it be right for me to come to a conclusion that because I did not meet a red pen, I met a blue pen, meaning there is a missing pen? Common sense, you can report back and say, well, I went, but there was not a red pen, but there is a blue pen. But there is a pen there. So that is a scenario here.
Well, thank you very much, Maurice Kante, the Assistant Public Relations Officer of the ACC. The Principal Legal Consultant's Office of the Attorney General and Minister of Justice has disclosed that 85 appeals have been tendered against the orders in the white paper. Lahai Momo Fama also called on people named in the government's white paper to work towards government instructions in refunding monies recommended by the COI. He made this call during his update to the press at the Ministry of Information's conference room, U building. Auna Patikama sent in this report.
It could be recalled that in September 2020, the Office of the Attorney General and Minister of Justice presented the white paper and its recommendations to the President. The publication of the report was done pursuant to Section 149, Number 2 of the Constitution of Sierra Leone, Act Number 6 of 1991. The commissions of inquiry were established by a constitutional instrument of 2018. The Office of the Attorney General and Minister of Justice was instructed to effect the recommendations of the commissions of inquiry within 90 days and recover all monies and confiscate all assets recommended to be confiscated and all other short penalties as recommended. The 90 days period expired in December, according to the Legal Consultant's Office of the Attorney General, Lahai Momo Fama. There were 3 main stages in the process, adding that they have excited 20 of the orders and 85 appeals have been tendered against the orders.
The first stage was that we try to freeze their accounts so that we will access them anytime we want. Those accounts are frozen, and by law, all we need to do now is to write. Since the 90 days grace which was given to them has expired, we are going to write to the authorities in the management of those accounts to turn them over to our recovery accounts. If they turn it, if you have 1 million to pay, you only have 50,000 in the account, we'll take the 50,000 and look out for what? 950,000 euros. If we cannot get it from you, physically, we can take any asset of yours.
The Minister of Information and Communications, Mohamed Rahman Soare, said government is committed towards transparency in whatever it does. He said names of people who by law have forfeited their property or repaid monies recommended will be named in public. Auna Patukama, News Hour.
Well, many thanks to Auna Patikama for that report. And in the studios, I have with me Imran Sila from the Strategic Communications Unit, Ministry of Information. Good afternoon and welcome to News Hour.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Now, give us a ratio of appeals as against the number of indictments.
Well, there are 85 appeals that has been filed in by individuals whose names have been mentioned in the white paper. And that process is ongoing, right? And we also know, based on the update yesterday from Mr. Farmer, that the first of 20 orders that were put in 15 have been granted by the courts, right, for property seizures. And so that means the next step would be for it to go to the mastering registrar, right, for his signature to be appended, and then they're going to effect seizures to those properties. So, I mean, I think we know for a fact that there's progress, and progress has been made on the recommendations of the white paper. We also know that there was a 90 days period that was given, right, for those whose names were mentioned in the white paper to come to terms with the recommendations, yeah, and monies that have to be paid back. And yes, they have appealed, right, but the lawyers will tell you that an appeal is not an injunction. It's not a stay of execution. Yeah. So the process is still ongoing. And if it gets to a point where there is an appeal and somehow those decisions by the white paper are overturned, then it means, as Mr. Farmer said, whatever was taken from those individuals will be returned back to them.
And now, what's the next stage after the appeal?
Well, that's about the final stage. So once you, because I mean, it's the structures in the court system. Yeah, the appeal is the final stage. So once you go to an appellant court, right, then it means you cannot go beyond that point. So you now wait for the findings, yeah, and the judgment, right, from the appeal court. Like I've said, it's 85 individuals who have appealed, and that means that the Chief Justice now has the responsibility to assign those appeal cases and make sure it is fast-tracked. We have no doubt that that is going to be the case, and that hopefully very soon there's going to be conclusions on those matters.
Now, how did government receive the information? Because 85 people out of 130 something to appeal, is it a kind of setback, or is it that they really don't want to comply?
Well, I mean, it is not for me to say as to whether, I mean, individuals want to comply or not. I mean, I can only speak to the determination of government, yeah, and the Office of the Attorney General to make sure that every single recommendation in the white paper, like His Excellency the President said, every single recommendation in the white paper will be adhered to by law, right? And Mr. Farmer reiterated that point yesterday. So I'm more concerned about due process, yeah, making sure that we do not do anything outside the law, right, to make sure that these individuals comply. And once the law is fulfilled, then definitely. So how steadfast is the government to make sure that these people comply, because it's the money of the people? Look, there's a lot in 3 years of this government to suggest that His Excellency the President has shown enough spine and backbone on every single commitment that he has made, including the fight against corruption. Right? At this point, there can be no turning back. So we are determined, the Attorney General, Minister of Justice, the office is determined to make sure that those recommendations are followed through, and that individuals, I mean, property seizures, I mean, as is recommended by the white paper, will happen, definitely, following due process. The appeals of those 85 individuals definitely will be heard in court. They will have their day, and there will be judgments on those appeals, and definitely whatever the outcome, if the recommendations of the white paper is upheld, right, then it means they have to comply, right, with the recommendations in the white paper. But then, like Mr. Farmer said, as provided for by law, if you were to appeal, then it means, and you lose the appeal, it comes with a cost. So you're not only going to be paying back X amount as recommended by the white paper, but then it also means you're going to be paying costs and other charges that will be levied on those individuals. So, I mean, I'm sure their lawyers would have weighed, I mean, all of the options, if you like, and understand exactly what they're letting themselves into. Okay, thank you very much. He is Imulan Sila, member of the Strategic Communications Unit in the Ministry of Information and Communications. Thank you for joining us on News Hour. Commercial farming has progressed to allow large quantities of chicken to be produced for the export markets. Hybrid chickens, which are larger and some would say even tastier than locally bred chickens, are now being imported on an increasing basis for local markets.
Sold as one whole chicken, this source of protein has become a necessity to keep up with the demand in the markets of Freetown from both traders and consumers. Our intern reporter Aliu Mansari has the story.
These are the new hybrid chickens currently floating in the market of Freetown and have been catching the eyes of consumers. Even though the physical appearance of the chickens resembles the local product, they are being imported by Sierra Frozen Food International, who distributes to wholesalers in the market at 18,000 leones per unit, and who also sell to petty traders who retail the chicken for 25,000 leones.
I only buy from people who ordered it because I am a wholesaler. I buy the hybrid raw and sell it to petty traders who in turn sell it to customers.
In the market, the chickens are in roasted form, which is strange and different to consumers. And it is also because of this appearance that they lure people to go in search of it more. But on the side of the wholesalers, they purchase the chicken in raw form, but on the tables of the petty traders, they're almost cooked, which might tempt one to ask how does these chickens change in appearance.
We buy the chicken raw from wholesalers. We then boil and roast it properly to have the looks and taste of the local chicken. The chicken looks more attractive to buyers after these processes.
Hybrid chickens are rarely a genetic modification resulting from the crossing of two or more breeds for commercial value, and it is believed that the increasing consumption of hybrid chicken in the market is because it is cheaper and some would say has more flavor than the other imported chicken we eat on normal basis. The country of the origin for the hybrid chicken is still unclear, as the importers, Sierra Frozen Food International, were unwilling to speak to the SLBC. For SLBC News, Aliu Mansari reporting.
Well, many thanks to Aliu Mansari for that report. A final year student of Mass Communications Department for Abbey College is suffering from liver disease and for a liver transplant, which cost 450 million leones in Ghana. Students at FBC, well-wishers and family have launched an appeal fund to raise the said amount for the conduct of operations slated for the end of this month. For more on the issues, I have with me Eustace Victor Jones, who I suppose is a classmate of the said person. Good afternoon and welcome to News Hour.
Good afternoon, Kima. Good afternoon.
Now tell us, how far have you gone on this appeal?
Philosophically, we've gone nowhere. We have been advocating since last year in November. The campaign had begun and we are still continuing. To our greatest disappointment, we have not received, much support from the public or those who are actually in the right position to help us. Yes, in ameliorating this very difficult situation.
You've gone somewhere, because initially I saw the flyers was 650 million leones, and now it's 450.
They are just
million
flyers, we are talking about physical cash. We have limited or no cash.
I mean the cost that you need for the operation.
Yes, it is through advocacy. The money at first, when we began, it was around $60,000, but after rigorous consultations and researches around different hospitals internationally, we are able to arrive at $45,000. That is around 450 million leones. That's just the operational cost, the total fee for the surgery. And we have not got that. Now, we had written several letters to different ministries, Ministry of Health, Mercury International, you name it. Okay. We've been parading the streets of Freetown. We've been making efforts to meet with ministers, high-placed individuals in society, non-governmental organizations, for them to come to our aid, to assist in saving the life of Mr. Leby. But all of those attempts seem futile at the moment. We are just calling on His Excellency. Perhaps it has reached to a stage where we need his intervention as a first gentleman. As I said earlier this afternoon when I came for the podium, I have trust in you, sir, I know that perhaps when this message reaches you, you will be more than obliged to assist us. Nothing is too little for us to have to save Mr. Levy's life. As you've heard, sir, we have been making strides to meet with you and the First Lady. The last time we went all the way to Godrich, we had planned a meeting with the First Lady, but the person who was leading us did not go to work on that day, and so we are stranded outside the gates of the First Lady's office. We stayed there for about hours before we disappointingly left there and went to various homes. So it is critical, you know, and Levy has barely a week to leave. Can you imagine a man who has spent the last 5 years at the university reading rigorously? He has been battling with this ill health, flip-flopping, getting well and falls ill again eventually. You see, that's the situation we're in. But at the moment, we're helpless. We can't do otherwise. We are just a bunch of students, final year students. We are not working even. Had we begun working, perhaps we would have, yes.
I wanted to ask, before I should help you, I
Yes.
think you should have done something.
Yes,
so
we had.
First of all, as
a class.
As a class,
Yes.
what have you done?
We
Before we
had-
talk about the administration of the FBC.
So when we first heard the news last year, November, December, we summoned an emergency meeting amongst ourselves as students. Now we had begun donating, we had begun giving monies. We have perhaps collected up to 5 million leons as a class. And this very issue has seeped onto other classes, lower classes as well. They have also begun donating to the cause. I made to understand that the Alumni Association of the Mass Communication Department has also, you know,
Made their
put
donation.
forward some funds, you know, and I also made to understand that the lecturers of the department will by Friday this week be donating something to a large account. But it's not enough, considering the voluminous amount we need to carry out the procedure.
And what about
It's
the
astonishing.
University of Sierra Leone administration?
Well,
have they come to?
Well, it's vaguely inappropriate, I would say. When we started, indeed, I think we wrote a letter to the University of Sierra Leone. They had said that perhaps they would chip in for us to have something, but I'm not sure that has come even. You see, so many people have made promises. Now, we don't have the will. There are people who can do this. We know there are people out there. There are good people. There are generous people. There are philanthropists
Maybe
out
it's
there.
high time
you see?
you started targeting business entities.
We have
Because as of now-
gone to an unending stream of them, a long queue of them. We're parading the streets of Freetown every day with letters in our hands. But at the end of the day, it is the willingness of these individuals to help that matters. It's not, you know, the presence there. We have gone to offices, we meet big people in this society. But as you know, everything nowadays has to be nepotic in a way. There should be connection to those people. There should be lobbyists at the corner who will be lobbying for you. We don't have those people. We are just a group of, you know, students. You know, we don't have anyone by our side. We have God, but I remain optimistic. We remain zealous. We remain committed to the cause. We know by the grace of God, inshallah, through Allah's help, eventually we will arrive at the amounts we want.
Now, how
and
would
Levy's
one,
life will
how
be
would
saved.
one be able to contact you if one wants to make a donation?
When we began last year, we had launched a campaign with the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation. Leading the donation is the Wayus desk. We have Lucien Ganda and Dan Mosiri who are standing at the gap. There is an orange money line. Perhaps if you are so moved watching the program right now, you could contact this person. I think it's Lucian's number. It's 076-812-174. That's the orange money number.
Okay.
You can do so wherever you are.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us. He is Eustace Victor Jones, a colleague or a classmate of the said person that is sick that needs medical attention. Indigo Center for Justice and Promotion of Human Rights, in partnership with the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education, have started a 5-day workshop with teachers and head teachers of the different schools in the Western Area Rural District. The workshop is to educate teachers on how to be accountable and transparent in the management of school resources. Our intern Suleiman Babature reports.
Every year, government spends millions of leones on education to ensure every child benefits from the free and quality education and to make the schools better places for healthy learning. But in most cases, some of these monies and other resources are mismanaged or misappropriated by some schools that receive them. Some even make them their personal properties. As a way of enlightening the teachers on how to manage school resources, Indigo Center for Justice and Promotion of Human Rights, in partnership with the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, have started a 5-day workshop. Some of the teachers expressed their views about the project and the impact of the workshop on them.
The President's flagship program is giving free quality education to the vulnerable, to the needy, the poor that cannot access quality education. So them coming with short meetings to sensitize as to when and how we should disburse the funds given to us by government is a laudable one.
For today, really, I learned a lot. But one key thing I learned is that I learned about accountability. Also, school management fund, how we as heads, how we should manage the subsidies as well as the finances that the government provide for us.
According to the Deputy Director of the Basic and Secondary Schools Education, Western Area Rural District, Nana Bokari, the workshop will help the teachers get a clear understanding about the project and prepare them for the implementation. Nana Bokari added that the project is a laudable venture for making sure that teachers give explanations about how they spend government monies.
I want to talk about accounting. Explain how you expend the money. You cannot get access to government money and then without having a budget or given an explanation how you use these funds for development, for administrative purposes, but we want transparent, we want to see it reflected in the schools.
Abdulaziz Kagbo, a member of the Indigo Center for Justice and Promotion of Human Rights, said after the training, they will monitor the teachers on whether they will disseminate the message to other teachers and communities and put what they learned into practice. The workshop came amid the launching of the project titled Improving Free and Quality Education Service Delivery through Enhancing Accountability and Transparency in the Management of School Resources at the Dreams Entertainment Complex, DPI Wata. For SLBC News, Sulaiman Babature reporting.
As a way to improve energy in the country through the provision of reliable and efficient electricity distribution to customers, consultant for the third-party grid verification exercise project, Arthur Energy Advisors, has updated journalists on the importance of the exercise. Emmanuel Alfred Samoa files in this report.
The third-party grid verification exercise was born out of the government request to improve energy when the country won the MCC award. The exercise is meant to investigate and look at the conditions of the distribution grid and document with evidence the situation of the grid.
We first do stock taking, but the main part of it is what we call the detailed verification phase, where we visit the individual premises that have supply to check their conditions and then to document all of that in order that when we make a recommendation, it's based on the solid facts on the ground that we find it. We will also look at what the consumer's perception is of the service they are getting and see how we can document it and help to improve the service delivery.
Mr. Amisa Arthur continued that the pilot project will at least visit premises of 8,000 consumers, especially in the Central Business District, because it is an environment filled with many activities that deal with electricity. Going to the Central Business District, SLBC caught up with the team on the field embarking on the exercise. The team introduced the software application they use to track all meters within the said environments. The application, according to the workers, shows the houses, amount of meters in the different houses, the names of owners, and can also detect faults or any illegal connections done to any of the meters. The cooperation of consumers, according to Engineer Godwin Aolu, has been average, but the challenges discovered are immense.
Physically, even though you are not an engineer, you look at the construction standard as per the IE regulation, the international IE regulation, we are not meeting the standard. So as a result, you can see visibly that there are a lot of losses in the system. Likewise, in the customer setup, when you look at the connection to, they are using substandard cable. This substandard cable in engineering, a result is to losses. So we are looking at all these critical things.
Engineer Aolu called on the public for their immense support, as they are not visiting houses to indict people. Rather, they are investigating challenges and faults within the grid. The consultant, upon completion of the exercise, will write a report making recommendations for the corrective actions that are to be taken in order to improve service delivery to customers. Emmanuel Alfred Samoa, SLBC Freetown.
Well, many thanks to Emmanuel Alfred Samoa for that report. And now let's take some news around the African continent. A letter has been sent to all telecom firms by the Ugandan communications regulator ordering the immediate shutdown of social media and messaging apps in the country. It comes the day after Facebook closed fake accounts it said were linked to the government, saying they were being used to boost the popularity of posts. The run-up to the election has been marred by tension and violence. President Yoweri Museveni is seeking his 6th elected term in office after 35 years in power. The 76-year-old faces 10 challengers, most notably 38-year-old pop star turned politician Robert Kyagulanyi, known by stage name Bobby Wine. The United Nations and the government in the Central African Republic, CAR, say rebels have carried out 2 attacks near the capital, Bangui. Local reports said one of the assaults targeted a checkpoint manned by government troops and Russian mercenaries. Ministers say the attackers were pushed back, but the UN spokesman has been quoted as describing the fighting as ongoing. The U.S. Embassy says it has received reports of clashes in the city and in Bimbo to the west of it. Rebel forces opposed to the re-election of Faustin Archange and supported by former President Francois Bozize have been advancing on the city. And Tunisia will start a 4-day nationwide lockdown on Thursday to stem the spread of coronavirus infections. The North African state has been struggling to reduce the number of infections since September. It has so far confirmed more than 160,000 cases since the pandemic started, with more than 5,000 deaths. The government has been avoiding a nationwide lockdown for months, opting instead of a nightly curfew that has been in place since October. But the infection rate has not decreased, with at least 300 new cases being confirmed daily. The country's economy has been struggling over the years, and the coronavirus pandemic has contributed further to its downturn. Well, that's all for news around the African continent. Now let's take entertainment news.
Hello and welcome to Entertainment News. I am Sleman Babature. It was a show of talent displayed when the University of Sierra Leone Theatre Group and the Suitcase staged a concert at the compound of the Freetown Secondary School for Girls. The concert urged Sierra Leoneans to be united and be patriotic.
Take a look at the sea, blessed with abundant fishes. The soil is fertile for agricultural productivity. But you are not making good use of me. I want my children to live in peace
Prominent in the concert is the African attire, particularly Sierra Leone male costumes like the raffia. This display of talent shows that Sierra Leone has lots of talent, as it is a debut for most of the casts. How they get to reach this stage of hosting a talent explosion like this in a society that is now dominated by Nigerian movies and less theater performance. Dr. Taki is a founding member of the University of Sierra Leone Theatre Group, which is a combination of students of all the constituent colleges.
We're looking at how we transform academic work through creativity and arts. So it's not just about book learning, it's not just about being academic, but you can be academic and you can be creative. You can have various abilities that you can use. And how we use this to transform ourselves and develop ourselves is what it's about.
The Suitcase is a group of young Sierra Leoneans who believe in theater as a form of educating and entertaining people. Some of these casts get their orientation from the History and African Studies Department of Robe College because theater is a major course. That's all we have time for. Thanks for joining us.
Well, from Suleiman Babatu, let's go to Abdul Kabir for sports updates.
Coronavirus has affected almost every sector of life, and the sporting industry is no exception. Now, the Zion Happy Home Foundation has organized a gala competition for two communities, Kaningo and that of River Number 2. According to them, the match is aimed at fostering good relationship between the two communities, as football is a unifying force. Jonathan Turner reports.
Sport is not only a major contributor to economic and social development, but it fosters peace among communities and nations as well. But since the outbreak of the coronavirus, essential aspects of social life, including sports, have been disrupted. However, the General Overseer, Zion A Happy Home Foundation, Nenge Hene Claude, said engagement in physical exercises prevents the virus entering one's system.
View and express the understanding of coronavirus, what they have to do. Many people know they have to wash hands, but they don't understand that you don't have to take your hands. There are some things you cannot tell somebody on phone or on social media, which needs a one-to-one meeting.
The outcome of the gala competition saw River Number 2 female team won by 4-1 against Kanigo Community female team, whilst the River Number 2 male team won by 1-0 against Kanigo Community male team. Several players gave their reaction after the event at River Number 2 in the Western Area Rural.
They really sensitize us against this COVID-19 because although yes, they said public gathering, we should not play football, like, let me say, in Sierra Leone, but I don't think that is the way because it's not easy for this team to pass through this thing. Because, let me say, COVID-19, they said it can transfer as fast as possible. But for me, I don't think, although yes, it is real, but playing football does not make this thing act very fast.
I feel good, I'm so happy being part of this competition, in as much as a football is somehow a male-dominated game, yeah, so it's not most common in here. I mean, noticed here that a female can be part of football. So I think it's a privilege for me, an opportunity for me to be part of this game. I'm so happy. I think this is one of the ways to showcase your talents or whatever gift you have, because it's commonly known here that as for us, a female, we don't know how to play football. We are only involved in some of these domestic activities or whatever, working in the office. So I think I'm happy.
Zion Happy Home Foundation is a ministry that is promoting and empowering young people in the country. For SLBC News, Jonathan Turner reporting.
Well, no one is safe until everyone is safe. I hope football stars will adhere to the preventive measures in order to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Sport updates for this edition of News Hour ends here, and I am Abdul Kabir, and thanks for watching.
Now, to end the news, a recap of the main points. The Principal Legal Consultant, Office of the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Lahai Fama, says 85 appeals have been tendered against the orders in the White Paper. Anti-Corruption Commission has confirmed that the 50 kVA generator donated by China is the same as the one currently installed in Zimi, while the Auditor General's report says otherwise. With the option of imposing fines, the Right to Access Information Commission is demanding the disclosure of information and says that most ministries, departments, agencies, and non-state actors are not in the practice of proactive disclosure of vital information in their website. Well, that's all in this edition of News Hour from the Salient Broadcasting Corporation. My name is Daphne Kimamakole. Thanks for joining us.